again to Math 060, Math Study Skills. Our first lecture video is going to cover the topic, why take a Math Study Skills course? And really what we're trying to get at is why you would want to take a specifically Math Study Skills course. Well, one reason is that math courses tend to have a different structure from other courses. Other courses ask you to learn vocabulary and concepts. They ask you to fill in the blank, answer multiple choice or true or false questions, and often write essays and maybe even do some research. In math courses, you need to learn vocabulary and concepts, but you also need to apply what you know. It's not just about being tested about what you remember about it, it's about how you use it. For example, can you imagine a psychology instructor asking students to diagnose a real person as part of a test? They wouldn't really do that. But a math instructor will ask you to solve problems and do math as part of a test or quiz. For example, here you can imagine a math instructor asking you to determine how many gallons of paint it might take to paint a room that has 2 windows and a door in it, areas you don't have to paint. You kind of have to treat math like a foreign language. That's what it's probably most similar to when you look at other courses. It tends to have new and specialized vocabulary. It has lots of symbols in it, which are a good thing. It has rules, laws, properties, theorems. These essentially constitute the grammar of what math is, so that we can all speak in the same language and interpret things in the same way. If you don't know the vocabulary and grammar of math, of course it's going to be difficult to understand it. You'll have trouble reading your textbook, you'll have trouble understanding the instructor, you'll have trouble understanding and talking to your fellow students. In many ways it would be like being in a foreign country, not having any idea what the language is, and those folks can't speak your language. Ultimately, you have to speak the language of math in order to be able to read about it, to talk about it, and to learn math. Math takes a lot of practice. You don't necessarily need to practice in a lot of other fields. In this way, it's like learning to play an instrument, or getting good at a sport, or lots of other types of hobbies. What we mean is that math is a skill-based subject, and skills are things that we can practice at to get better at. Even the best, those folks who have the most innate ability in an area, still spend lots of time practicing. The best musicians have to practice. The best athletes have to practice. Those of us that aren't as good at an area, we just need to practice that much more. Ultimately, proficiency is more than just knowing how. Practice improves your speed and your confidence. It gives you a chance to learn from your mistakes, and that's something that you want to do before you get to a test. Not all courses outside of the world of mathematics are sequential. Sometimes you can learn a little here and a little there of something, but math courses tend to be very sequential. What we learn about and discuss in class 1 period, you're expected to know and be able to build on the next period. For example, once an arithmetic course is covered adding fractions, you're expected to be able to add fractions anytime we need to later on in the course. What's often called learn and purge, which is a short-term memory technique for learning something, doesn't really work in a math class. You can't learn it in the short term. You have to learn it for the long term. What you're trying to do is build a solid foundation of knowledge. And if you don't have the good foundation, it's hard to keep building on top of it without everything falling down. If the last time you took a math course was in school, high school, or a K-12 school, you're going to find out that math courses in college don't offer as much classroom time. College math courses have about 1/4 of the instruction time as an equivalent high school course. So if you took Algebra 1 in high school, for instance, you might have spent 150 to 180 hours in the class. Basic algebra course in college meets generally at most about 45 hours, even though both classes cover pretty much the same stuff. That means the burden for learning has been transferred out of the classroom to you for about 3/4 of that material. So you're going to have to spend a lot of time on your own practicing. Additionally, colleges are going to treat grades a bit differently than high school. You may have passed Algebra 2 with a D in high school, but in college that's generally going to be a failing grade. You usually need a C to pass a math course and move on to other courses that require that math course. We tend to have a negative cultural bias, kind of in the world, but definitely in the United States, towards math. As it says here in the first line, we have a built-in cultural bad attitude. We hear from an early age things like math is hard, only smart people can do math, or I get along just fine without math. These aren't really true, but they are becoming true within our culture because they've been said so much. We need to fight this and say things like anyone can do math, and I can do so much more in life if I do know math. Is math hard? Sure, it can be. More so for some people, less so for others. Can anyone do math, though? Yes. It takes a lot of hard work and perseverance for some of us. It's not always as easy for everybody. But it is something that you can do. Good study skills, the focus of this course, can help a lot with that. So we said earlier that skills equal practice. This can be hard work. But math study skills are different because math courses tend to be different. You may want to notice that we're calling them study skills. That means they're things that you can get better at through practice. You're going to need to learn from your mistakes as you try different study skills. You're going to need to be willing to try different things, different study skills, when certain study skills don't work. So yes, it is going to take some hard work, but that and some perseverance, and you'll find that anyone can learn math study skills, and if you can learn math study skills, everyone can learn math. Our last picture here is something called a graphic organizer. It's just a way to summarize the ideas of this lecture in a single slide. And you'll see that college math courses ask you to apply your knowledge. They are often like learning a foreign language. They require lots of practice. The material in them comes in a sequential order. We don't get as much lecture time as we did in high school or middle school or even elementary school. And we have to fight through this cultural bad attitude that we have to deal with. So hopefully this presentation is giving you some good ideas as to why a math study skills course may be a good idea for you.